This video is brought to you by YTAndrewPaul Tech Repairs. If you have a console, laptop, computer or Macbook in need of repair in the UK or the EU, then have a look in the description below this video for details on how to contact us in order to organise your repair. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video, and today we're going to be taking a look at this Xbox One S. It's a grey one and it's got absolutely no power whatsoever. So if we take a look, the power is plugged in and it's turned on, but absolutely nothing doing. So we're going to strip this down, we're going to take a look inside, see what we can find. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to the next part of the video where of course we have the Xbox board out on the table. So let's take a look. So we have absolutely no power whatsoever. Now apparently, according to a letter that we received with this box, it had been opened by its previous owner, no power to unit, it's changed the power supply and a new front panel still not working. So let's go and take a look. So the most basic thing then, if the power supply has been changed, is to check that power is actually getting from the power supply to where we need it to get to. And if we take a look over towards the top right hand side of the board, as the ports are facing away from you, you'll see that you have these three little capacitors here, 1, 2, 3, there's a little coil here, and just to the right of those is this little black connector, and that is where the power supply for this plugs in. Okay, so we're just looking down the throat of it there. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see that we have no shorts to ground on the 12 volt rail. Now we're not getting any power whatsoever, and I also noticed that when we plugged it in earlier on, if you look through the ventilation holes at the top, you can see that the fan doesn't twitch. Now usually when you apply power to an Xbox One S, or even an Xbox One, the actual fan will turn sort of like an eighth of a turn and then it will just stop. Now it wasn't doing that, which suggests that this thing isn't getting a 12 volt feed. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick this into continuity mode. On a multimeter, that's the one with these little wavy symbols, looks a bit like a volume icon. And that's the mode where the thing will beep when you touch two probes together, and then it'll give you a resistance reading. So we're going to see just what's what here. So we're going to put one multimeter probe on ground, and we're going to put one multimeter probe in the back three prongs here. And now these are where the 12 volt comes in from the power supply. And it's kind of awkward because I'm trying to do this underneath the microscope, but if I can reach the pin with the... Okay, so you can see there that we have 2.9 ohms resistance to ground and it's dropping. So that would suggest that there's a direct link at the moment between ground and the 12 volt rail. So what's doing that then? Well, if you take a look around the board, to be honest, there's nothing seemingly out of place. Everything looks clean and tidy. So there's usually a couple of things that can go wrong on here that is a fairly common thing. One of which, of course, is these 12 volt smoothing caps. So of course this is where the voltage comes in the power supply, it's all held in these, and that turns the 12 volts, it stores it up, so you get a really nice smooth 12 volt rail into the board, because of course, you know, processors, memory and things like that work on timing. If the power is surging up and down, it's got lots of ripple, stuff like that does not like ripple. So those caps, I suppose one of those could be bad, but to be honest, more often than not, on these Xbox One S's, a lot of the time when there's an issue on the 12 volt rail, you need to come down the right hand side of the APU and you'll see these things. So you'll see a row of capacitors, and then behind there you've got three inductors, so three big coils, 1, 2 and 3, and you'll also notice behind that we have three sets of MOSFETs, and this is a little buck regulator circuit. So you've got the controller there, a couple of FETs, okay, a couple of caps to store the voltage and everything else. So these three, now then this is a three-phase supply because there are three individual supplies, you'll notice. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need to measure to make sure that these are behaving themselves, because quite often when these things fail on the 12 volt rail, these little buggers are to blame. So let's go ahead and try it. So we're going to go for the one at the very left hand edge as they're facing us, And essentially the way we do that is we get the multimeter, and we're going to put the multimeter into diode mode. So you'll notice that little electrical symbol of a diode here. Okay, that's the mode you want to move your multimeter into. If you've got a multimeter belt like mine, you might have a function key because you'll have several functions on one dial placement. So you'll notice here that we have a little diode logo in the top right hand corner. So we're going to measure these little MOSFETs here, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to see what's happening here on the gate. So the gate pin here is the top left, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to measure that to this resistor here, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to put black probe on the gate, and we're going to put our red probe on the side of that resistor, okay? And we should get a reading, yeah, around 0.65 volts. That's about right. Okay, what we're going to do then is we're going to take our multimeter probes and switch them around. So this time we're going to put red probe on gate. And we're going to put our black probe on that side of the resistor. And we'll see there we have around 1.9 volts. Again, somewhere around sort of like 1.7-ish. Up to around 1.9 is about right. So that's probably okay. So let's come across to this one. Okay, so this is the middle, second phase of the three. Okay, so again, we're going to put black probe, first of all, on gate. A red probe on the side of that resistor. And we get, ooh, now then, look at that. We get 0.004 volts. And that would suggest that we have a short. Okay, across there. Now that is not supposed to happen. Okay, because once this is off, this little controller here grounds the gate. Okay, which shuts down power to the APU. Now, if it does that, of course, that means if there's a short across here, then currently it's essentially what's happening is that this little controller shuts this gate by grounding it, which turns off the power supply. But of course, what it does is it ends up grounding this entire portion of the circuit, which goes across this coil to these caps to the APU, and that's a 12 volt feed. So what happens is that we end up with a direct short to ground. So what we're going to do here, we'll notice, like I said, with the black probe there and the red probe there, it's not happy, it's fluctuating all over the place. And then, just for the sake of it, let's go the other way around. Yeah, steady 0.004. So that's not looking great. So we could very well have found the issue there, but we'll just check the one over here. So again, first of all, we're getting black probe on gate. 0.65. We'll swap the leads over. So it looks like this one's probably going to be fine. Yeah, 1.916. So it looks like then we have an issue with our middle phase here. Okay, so this tiny little Q9D4 is seemingly buggered. So what we can do is, I'm just going to get some fume extraction on, and I'm going to get some flux. Ow! Smack my head on the on the microscope. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to pop a little bit of flux on that little MOSFET. And we're going to go in with the air one. So this air one is currently set at 490 degrees C, 100 litres of airflow per minute. It's my sort of go-to temperature, if you like. And we're just going to start working this back and forth. Now the good thing is that if you've got an old Xbox One, an original motherboard kicking around, and if you haven't, they're cheap enough to buy as spares these days. These little MOSFETs can be found and taken from those boards if you haven't got a spare donor Xbox One S board lying around. So my apologies if I just block your view momentarily here while I get this up to temperature to remove it. Okay, it should start to move any second now, really. Okay, so that's off there now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go away. Just knocking stuff everywhere now. I'm going to go away and we're going to get a donor part. Okay. Doesn't matter really on the Xbox One original boards which one you nick, they're all the same. Essentially the 1S is just an original Xbox One in a frock, to be fair. There's not an awful lot of difference. Much of the circuit and many of the components are actually interchangeable between the two. If you were wondering. So, we're just going to lift our donor component off, and there it is. Okay. So, what we're going to do now is we're just going to pop. Oops. Going to pop this down, if I can get it in my tweezers. So, if you do end up sort of swizzing it around and losing it, what you can do is you'll notice there's a dot here and a dot here, just on the top right hand corner of the little MOSFET. As long as those two line up, you've got this thing the right way around. So I'm just going to come. I'm going to try and come in. It doesn't want to go back down. It doesn't want to go back down. It's begging for mercy. It's like, no. Okay, so that is in position there now. It's looking lovely. So I'm just going to put my air wand aside for a second. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to re-measure that second phase with a multimeter. So again, oops, still in diode mode. Black probe on the gate, red probe on the side of that resistor. Four three four four. It's going up. It's because it's still a little bit warm, so it probably is a little bit unfair measuring this while it's still a little bit warm. So we'll put a little bit of IPA in there. I'll just give it a second. I'm not being very kind to it. Definitely not being very kind to it. These Xbox One S boards, when they short, can have some really quite nasty problems. But yeah, this is quite a common one, to be fair. You'll find if you get one where it powers up for a couple of seconds and goes off, it's often the first thing you should try. Just checking these little FETs. When you've got an issue on the 12 volt rail, if you have a short on the 12 volt rail, come over here and just have a look. I'm just taking a look at this capacitor here. It's bloody awful, but I think it's just dust. So, once again, black probe on gate, red probe on the left side of that resistor, and we're getting about 0.56. Still going up, like I said, there's still a little bit of warmth in the board. That's about right. But you'll notice it's not reading short anymore. And then a red probe. Oops. About 1.825 and going up. Again, as it cools, it's coming more within spec. So that's absolutely fine. You'll notice that now isn't reading short and is reading a little bit more like what we'd expect it to do. So that's looking pretty good. What we're going to do then, just to give it the acid test and just see if our 12 volt rail short has disappeared. I'm just going to come back over here. And again, this is going to be just as awkward this time around for me to measure because it's still underneath the microscope. Okay, so we're going to put one probe on ground, the other probe on the 12 volt pins. The 12 volt pins are these back three. These three here down the right hand side are ground anyway. So you'll notice when we put our when we try and put our multimeter probe in here, I can't get it. Why can't I? Yeah. Oh, well, kind of. There we go. They're ground anyway. So these three, these three pins here are ground anyway. These multimeter pros are massive, by the way. Especially when you put the pin the small pin extension handle on it. Just the real monsters. Anyway, so let's just see if we can show our 12 volt pins to be free of any shortage. Okay, I'm touching the top of that pin now. Oh well, open line. And, bloody hell. Okay. Yeah. Oh well, open line. And finally, they're all common anyway. You only need to measure one to know that all of them are free. Again, I'm against the top of that one there. And then we get OL open line. So our 12 volt rail short has disappeared. Likewise, another good way to test it is as a test point up here. You'll notice there we have test point 8V1, V for voltage, 12, P0, which essentially means 12 volts in S0 state, i.e. when the machine's running. You'll notice now we get the multimeter, one probe on ground with the other probe on the test point. We get OL open line, which means there's no interaction between that 12 volt point now and ground, which is fantastic. Again, likewise, this little coil here, L9B1, the inductor holds 12 volts. Same thing, one probe on ground, other probe on the inductor, we still see OL open line. So hopefully that means that we've managed to snuff out our short to ground, and hopefully this might just work again. Now, I have had it before now, where unfortunately we have managed to find one of these things shorted before, and obviously, you go away, you clear it, and you think, yay, and you plug it in, and the bloody thing's got another short somewhere else. Like I say, these boards can get quite nasty shorts, particularly if the south bridge has failed, or it's surged the APU, because obviously, these three-phase supplies here supply power to the APU, so if they surge, it can damage, if it throws 12 volts into here where it shouldn't, then yes, like I said, certain parts of this APU will be running on something like a CPU V-core, things like that, probably running quite low voltage. If you chuck 12 volts straight through somewhere where, for example, 1.8 volts or 1.1 volt needs to go, yes, you're not going to have a good time. So hopefully that's not happened, and hopefully, these three 12 volt phases now are good, especially now we've replaced this little fella here. So let's go away, let's give it a test, let's see what we've got, and hopefully we'll have a working Xbox. Right, again, ladies and gentlemen, so as we can see, we have this thing loosely assembled on the desk now. I've chosen just to pop the heatsink back on, plug in the fan, plug in the 12 volt pin connector from the power supply, and I've also plugged the front panel in here so we can try and power it on. Now, the reason for that is obviously because we think we've solved the short, but if not, obviously, if we put it all back together, we'd have to strip it all again. At least this way, we can run it on the desk. We can see what's going on. If we need to, we can actually probe some more points around here to test. But hopefully, this is going to work. So, what we're going to do is I'm just going to apply power by flicking the switch of the vac here. Aha! Now, we didn't get that before. Before, this fan wasn't doing a bugger all. But you see there what I mean when I apply power? You get a really quick spin of the fan. Before we weren't getting that, so I'm fairly hopeful now. So let's just try and power this up. Yes, there we go. Okay, so that's good. So we've got no DVD drive, we've got no hard drive powered on here, so this thing isn't going to be doing a great deal. And obviously, we know we've not got it hooked up to a TV, and even if we had without the hard drive, we're not going to get anything. But we can see it's holding power. The fan is spinning. Like I say, we're holding power down there. it's looking pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go away, we're going to pop this back in its chassis, we'll put the hard drive and the DVD drive, well, I suppose the Blu-ray drive back in, and we'll see if this thing is living again. So join me in a second, boys and girls, and see you in a sec. Right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we can see here we have our Xbox just sat down there minding its own business. It's now all back in its chassis. I've plugged it in, so hopefully, well, at least now I've put it all back together, I'm hoping it's going to work. So let's fire it up. Let's see what we get. Okay, so we have power, we have a light. What do we get up there? Do we get anything up there? We got sync. Something's happening. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. I'm chuffed to bits with that. That's great stuff. That's actually the first time I've managed to capture one of those on camera, because I tell you what, I've had a few of these recently, and they've all been nasty things. They've all been shorted south bridges, or it's been a toasted APU. It's been a while since I've actually had one where it's just that little MOSFET that's the problem. And to be honest, it's quite nice to get one on camera. I thought it was never going to happen, because you always get the question whereby, and I've been asked it a few times now, to actually show one of these machines and what happens when you've got a 12, when you've got no power at all. You change your power supply. What can I check next? And it's like, I can try and describe it, but it's kind of awkward unless you're quite sort of electronically minded. It's kind of difficult to sort of put into words, but it's nice to be able to actually show you for once exactly what I mean. So hopefully this video will prove quite popular with you guys. And if I get asked that in future, I can just point you to here, and you can go away and check it. But that does fail quite a lot. If you tend to find that you've got a short on the 12 volt rail, check those 3 APU phases first of all, and I'll guarantee you more often than not you'll find one of them shorted. I'm not saying that's going to be the only problem you're going to have, because like I said, what can happen is that three-phase supply goes to the APU. If it surges, it can ruin the chip. So you may find that you've still got silly things like GPU V-core, mem core, and things like that still shorted, and that's where it starts to get nasty. But quite often, like I say, a good percentage of the time, it'll be one of those three-phase APU things, and once you replace it, you identify which one it is, you can get it all back up there. Now, unfortunately, I don't know a part number for those little MOSFETs. I can try and find it. I'd love to know, because like I say, at the moment I'm having to take them from donors. It would be nice to get a stock of those in, because like I say, they do go quite a lot. So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions or any comments, then feel free to pop them below in the comments. I do sort of pop by and read them as often as I can, and if you've got a question there and I can help you out, then by all means I will try to do so. If you'd rather ask me something in private, then again, feel free. You can hit me up on Twitter. My handle on there is @YTAndrewPaul. My inbox is open to everybody on there, so you don't have to follow me to send me a message. You should just be able to send me one across there, and I'll pick it up. And like I say again, if I can help, I'll be more than happy to. If you have a similar sort of issue to this of your own, and you want me to take a look and see if I can repair it for you, and you're in the UK or the EU, then by all means drop me an email to my business email address. That is ytandrewpaul@outlook.com. That's in the description. And like I said, if you're in need of a repair of your own, then feel free to hit me up with your location and what issues you're having with your machine, and I'll get a quote to you for the repair. Likewise, if you are in need of components for repairing these things, like I say, I do have some scrap boards down here I can take you a couple of MOSFETs from if you need to. Then by all means, hit me up. We can ship components worldwide. I also stock a lot of brand new supplied components for most PS4, Xbox One, things like that, MacBooks. Quite a lot of that sort of stuff, certainly around the HDMI side of things. Really common things that go wrong. I have a lot of brand new spanking components in stock and ready to go worldwide. Like I said, again, drop me an email with your location, quantities required, and what you're after, and I'll see if I can help you out, because more often than not I can do. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Andy Paul. You've been fantastic. If this has helped you or you've enjoyed it, then by all means, if you could pop a a like down there, you smash that like button, that big thumbs up there, that'll really help me. Likewise, if you've not already subscribed to the channel, we've got loads of content on there like this. We've over 100 videos now. Then feel free just to hit that subscribe button and go have a look on the channel, because I guarantee you'll find all sorts on there that'll interest you if this is your sort of thing. So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. As I said before, I'm Andy Paul. You've been brilliant. This Xbox is working again. And like I said, I'm really pleased I managed to get one of these on camera to show you. So thank you for watching. You've been great. And I will see you shortly on the next video. So for me, for now, it's bye-bye. And I hope life treats you well. Many thanks for watching then, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then why not check out these recommendations below. Also, please remember to comment, rate, and of course subscribe to the channel if you found this useful. We've plenty more content on there, and there's lots more to come.